Now we're learning this week's Torah portion, and it is Miketz, and it explains about how Yosef got out of the prison where he was in, and suddenly he became elevated in one day to be the king of the whole world. So never give up. You never tell what's in store for you. So we remember last week that Yosef was thrown into the prison because Potiphar's wife accused him of raping her, attempted rape, and he was given basically a life sentence in Egyptian prison, and he succeeded over there in the Egyptian prison, and he was there for 10 years. At the end of this 10 years, he hears a dream. He hears two dreams. The dream of the bread minister and the dream of the wine minister, Paro's wine minister. And he tells the wine minister, you're going to get out. Don't forget me. And the bread minister, he tells him that you're going to be killed. Paro's going to kill you. And so it was. So the bread minister gets killed, and the wine minister, excuse me, I just was tired, woke up. The wine minister, he becomes so instead of remembering Yosef like he's supposed to, and telling Paro, this just the most amazing thing happened to me. I got out of prison, and there was a Jew there that told me about it. Forgot about the whole thing. And so Yosef has to languish 2 more years in prison. Interestingly, it doesn't say how long he was in prison in the first place. It just says that after 2 years, Paro dreamed, and he was standing on the river. So it doesn't say 2 years after what. So the fact is, it was 2 years after his original 10-year sentence. Or maybe it was a life sentence. In any case, 2 years after the dream that the wine minister had, 2 more years, he was in prison. And the wine minister told Paro exactly at the right time when Paro had this dream, it was bothering him. So here we go. And it was at the end of 2 years. Rashi says 2 years. What does it mean? It's so at the end. That's what it means, at the end of 2 years. Rashi doesn't really deal so much with the time. Rashi is more interested in what it says that Paro has this dream and he's standing on the river. Which river is he standing on? So it says all the other rivers are not called rivers. They're not called Yor. The only one is called the Nile River, because the whole world, the whole land of Egypt was all sorts of tributaries and irrigation ditches, irrigation rivers that spread out through the whole land of Egypt, because there's no river, there's no rain in Egypt. The Nile River, when it raises up, it fills up all these irrigation ditches and irrigation rivers or whatever, because there's no water in Egypt all the time like in the other lands. So Egypt doesn't have any land. So therefore, in order for there to be food in Egypt, so the land has to be irrigated. So there's only really one basic river, and that's called the Nile River. Here the BalHaTurim says, Miketz, says by here Miketz, and by the Abraham it says after 10 years. Remember, it says that Abraham gets married Sarah and she doesn't have any children. So after they're married for 10 years, so then Abraham takes another wife. So it says Miketz over there at the end of 10 years. Just like by Abraham, the Ketz means 10 years. Also over here, it means the end of 10 years, even though it doesn't say. So this is the end of 10, and then 2 more. After the end of 10, and then 2 more years. And he says there, the BalHaTurim, he's a big genius when this So it says, Vayehi miket shnatayim yamim uparo chalem. If you add up the numerical value of all of these letters, Vayehi, right? Vav is 6, and Yud is 10, and Hey is 5, and Mem is 40, etc. You end up a gematria of Eser Shanim. Eser, Shin is 300 and Resh is 200. So it comes out to be exactly, count them up. If you have some free time, count off your fin, it comes out to be exactly 10 years. So in other words, 2 more years. So the Kates, after the end of the 10 years, then Shanatayim Yom, then there's 2 more years is added on. Here the Or HaChiam says like this: Vayehi is a language of, is an expression of something bad is going to happen. Vayehi. Why does it say Vayehi, which is a language of tsar? Because now is beginning the whole thing. This is the beginning of the exile of Egypt. True, Yosef is going to save the whole world, and he's getting out of prison, and etc. And he's going to become a king. But really, this is just the beginning, even though it seems to be really good. But this is going to bring the Jews down into Egypt, and then there's going to be a new Paro, or at least it's going to have a change of mind. And that's the exile. So the exile was already made years before that. With Abraham and the Brit Bein HaBetorah, between the bris, the covenant between the pieces, but this is it. This is it starting. Also, another reason for the tsar is because it's announcing that there's going to be a big famine. And God has pain when the world is in pain, because there's going to be a big famine in the whole world. Also, another thing of the pain is that Vayehi, that Yosef is in pain because he has to be 2 more years after the dream. He doesn't even know if the wine minister even remembered him, or even if he's still alive. Okay, interestingly enough, so Paro has this dream, right? And what's the dream? Let's just skip and see what the dream is. Here we go. Beautiful Kli Yucker here, but we don't have the time to really do it all and give justice to the rest of the sentence. We have a few more sentences to do so. Okay, Hine, Mina Yor, from this river came 7 fat cows. Yafos Mara, they looked beautiful, brios and very healthy. And Batirano Ba'achu, and they were all sort of grazing. This is a sign. Ba'achu, it says in the Agam, they were all grazing in the river. This is a sign, says Rashi, that there's going to be years of plenty. 7 fat cows, 7 fat years. That it looks very nice, that they look really nice when they're standing right next to each other. That, when they're all healthy, so they're not fighting for food or anything. Says the Kli Yucker, they were healthy because it all depends in the health of all. They were healthy. It shows that the whole world was healthy, because it shows that there was a lot of grazing, place for them to graze, and so therefore they looked good. Means not that they looked good, but means that they were looking at the food in a good way. They didn't have to fight for food, because there was a lot of food everywhere. He said, why does it even mention that there were grazing in the water, like the swamp? What is it called? Like the marshes. Why were they going? Because he says that Dasakani, because the whole thing of the hunger and plenty comes because of water. The water is the whole thing. That's what he wants to say, that these oxes, the healthy oxes, were healthy because They were all drinking from the water. There was plenty of water. Okay, all of a sudden, says Paro, and listen to this dream, says Paro. There are bad, there are seven other cows come up after them and they looked terrible, and they were skinny, and they stood next to the other oxes on the edge of the river. On the edge of the river, it says before they ate them, just to show that the hunger and the plenty would be together. This is going to be the answer. This is that Yosef learned from this. This is that the dream was not just telling him what was going to be, but how to solve the problem also. In other words, you should save all of the food. Usually what happens is the plenty years, so everybody's happy. There's plenty and everybody eats, and that's it. There's plenty. But Yosef wants to tell Paro, don't just eat it and throw it away. The plenty is not going to last forever. In the plenty years, store up the food, because there's going to be a big surprise. There's going to be 7 unhealthy years afterwards. The fact of the matter is there was only 2, because Yaakov came down after 2 years of famine. And as soon as Yaakov came down, it says the Nile River rose up to meet him. So there's really only 2 years, but still, even 1 year of famine would have been sufficient if they wouldn't have saved up the food. So 1 year of famine would have decimated the whole world. Even Paro would have died. They didn't expect that there was going to be bad years afterwards. So that's what he says, that it's giving a hint on the solution as well. You have to keep them the plenty years and the have enough in the plenty years stored over, so that when the bad years come, that there'll be both of them together. And not only that, it's even more that in the whole entire world, there's going to be a famine, and in Egypt, there'll be plenty of food. It's coming to tell Paro, make this, do what I tell you, and you're going to be the leader of the whole world. Okay, so you have the bad oxes and the good ones. So the bad oxes eat up the bad-looking oxes, the bad-looking cows, not oxes, cows. The ones that were thin and skinny, they ate up the fat cows. And all of a sudden, Paro woke up. Says, what does it mean? It means that all of the joy of the the good years will be all forgotten in the days of the hunger. The Ramban doesn't exactly agree. The Ramban says, if you ask me, this is telling you that the bad years are going to eat up the good years. And this is how Yosef learned to tell Paro to save up the food. Right? The Ramban is saying something like what the Sforno said before. Because he saw that they're all standing all together, one with the other. So therefore, he knew that Yosef had to save up the food so that there would be what to eat in the bad years, so that the bad years would be able to at least devour the good years, so that there would be something left after the whole thing. In other words, the bad years were still left, so that people would still be alive. Okay, so Paro goes back to sleep. Vayachalom shenis. And behold, the Torah is telling us what Paro sleeps. Afterwards, when they pull Yosef out, as Paro is going to relate this dream over to Yosef. He goes back to sleep and he says there are now, instead of cows, there's going to be plants. The Lubavitcher Rebbe says we can see here that Paro's dreams went down in level from animals to plants to lower level. And Yosef's dreams that he had, remember, with his brothers in the beginning of last week's Torah portion, that his dreams went up. They went up. First of all, he had dreams of the stalks in the field, and then afterwards the stars. So they were going up from below to above. Okay, so he goes back to sleep, and there are 7 stalks, whatever. They're growing. They're growing 7 like tufts of wheat or whatever, and they're growing on one stalk. And they're very, very healthy. They're very, very good and healthy. Looks great. Kli Yakar says, he didn't say that he dreamt the second dream. Vayishan vayachalom shenit. It says that he dreamt another dream. It just said that he went and he dreamt second time. What does it mean? That the second dream is the same thing as the first one. It's just the same dream over again. These 7, it's telling you that the bad years and the good years are going to be one right after the other. Both of them are the same dream. The one with the cows and the one with the sheaths of wheat. They're the same thing. They're standing right next to it. But it's coming to show that the 7 years are going to be right in a row. But the years of hunger, the 7 years of plenty will be in a row. But the 7 years of hunger won't be in a row because after 2 years, when Yaakov came, it stopped. And it returned after he died. That's what the Kli Yakar says. Therefore, it doesn't say that they grew up on one stick. Also, it shows that the plenty years are going to be very, very plenty because it says that 7 tufts grew up on one. And the bad are going to be 2 bad ones, and they're going to one after the other. And then there's going to be all the time Yaakov is alive is going to remain. Then it's going to repeat again. So says the Kli Yakar. Okay, Vav. Okay, so he says, first of all, there's these beautiful tufts of wheat, 7, and there's going to be 7. Afterward, there are 7 terrible looking ones that are all like wind blown, etc. And they grew up after them. And the good wheat was swallowed up. The bad wheat swallowed up the good wheat. And Paro woke up, and behold, it was a dream. He says, what do you mean he woke up, it was a dream? When he had the second dream, so the first dream he had, he woke up, he knew it was a dream. But the second one, he didn't realize that it was a dream. He thought that this was really happening. It wasn't. But after he woke up from his sleep, so he recognized that retroactively that it was just a dream. That's what he says. He woke up and he found himself that he was in the middle of a dream. He felt that the whole thing was a dream, says that's the Or HaChiam. The whole thing was a dream, says the Seforno, that it was one big dream. That's what it says as the Seforno. He felt that the whole thing was one big dream. That he saw in the second dream, it was a repetition of the first one. Okay, Vayehi Boker, and so it was in the morning. Vatipoim Rucho, and his spirit inside of him was like, how do you say, his feelings inside of him were like very, very uncertain. He says like a bell. It says mitrefet ruchecha, that he was going crazy inside of him. And like in Nebuchadnezzar, it also says vatipoim rucho, same language. Because here it says vatipoim. It says batitpoem rucho. It says by Nebuchadnezzar, it also says that he had a dream and he couldn't figure out what it was. And he pulled Daniel out, and Daniel explained the dream to him. First of all, Daniel told him what the dream was, and then he told him the explanation. by Paro, it says that he remembered the dream, he just didn't know what it meant. But Nebuchadnezzar, he said, he even forgot the dream. He just felt terrible. He didn't know what. So that's why it says vatit poem with 2 tufts, because he forgot the dream and he also didn't understand what it meant. And Daniel explained both. So it says that Paro, he he told Paro all of his to all of his soothsayers and his wise men, and they couldn't explain it. They couldn't explain the dream. It says they did have dreams, but they didn't give the dreams LeParo. It doesn't say that they couldn't explain it. They did explain it, but they couldn't explain it to Paro. What does it mean they couldn't explain it to Paro? They had explanations, but the explanations didn't make any sense to Paro. They said, you're going to have 7 daughters and you're going to give birth to, and the 7 daughters are all going to die. Didn't make any sense because in the dreams, first of all, number one, in the dreams of Paro, the dreams, we see that they were existing together. So if he has 7 daughters and they die, all the daughters die, so there's no time when the good and the bad is together. Not only that, Paro felt that these dreams were not just personal dreams. Paro was the king. He was the king. According to some opinions, he ruled over the whole world. Maybe he ruled over the whole world after this famine, whatever. But in any case, he was a king. So he had a dream. He knew that the dream somehow or other was not just relevant to him, it was relevant to the whole entire kingdom. So this, that he had daughters that died, and this, that he knew that there wasn't, the dream that he was dreaming. It worried him so much that he knew it was something very, very important. So he said, "En poter otam." They couldn't explain both of them. Says the HaChiam, because there were 2 dreams. Even it says was one dream, and they both meant the same thing. But if so, why did it have to be 2? He didn't understand. Yosef is going to say the reason there's 2 dreams is to show that it's going to happen quickly. So the Saram, all of a sudden, the minister of wine says to Paro, "Wow, my sin, I remember today. I totally forgot this." He said, it says the Sforno, the minister of wine said, "I'm not complaining that you put me in jail, because it was my sin that you put us at Chata'ayas Kirayom." He's saying, Your Majesty, remember you put me in jail. You were right to put me in jail, and it was my mistake. It says that they found a fly in his. Rashi brings on. They found a fly in the wine that he gave to Paro, so he threw him into prison. So he said, "Paro, you were 100% right. What you did, you threw me into prison, but." Paro got mad, you got mad at me, and you put me in the jail. Me and the bread minister. You put us both there, right? And we had a dream, me and him, and each person, like his dream, we dreamed, right? Each one, we had a dream that we knew that there was a meaning to it. And there was a young Ivri, a Jewish boy, a slave to the Sarah Tavachim, the slave to the master of whatever is this, the food minister or something. And we told him, this is Potiphar's husband, right? We told this Jewish boy the dream. Now, all these words he's going to say are words of how do you say? They're negative words. They're negative terms. Can't think. Diminishing terms. It says, "Nar Eved Ivri." These 3 words: a boy, a Jew, and a slave. Arurim Arashaim. Evil, cursed be the evil people. She'ein tov v'som shalema. That what they do good, it's never really good. Umaskiro b'lashon bizayon. Here, Yosef helped him, got him out. He says he's a nar. What does it mean? A little child, he's a fool. Right? He called Yosef. There's this foolish boy. It's not fitting to bring him up. Ivri, it says even our language he doesn't know. Eved, he is just a slave. Right? It's just a slave. It's not fitting to put nice clothes on him. And each person dreamt his own dream. Each person dreamt a dream, and they asked him what it was. And just like he told us So it was. He took me out, and the minister of bread, he hung. Rashi, Heshiv al Kani, put me back on my original position. Says Paro, who did it? Paro that we talked about before. Kamosha Omer, like Paro Katzaf, you got mad? Well, it's the same Paro over here. Below Pirish Miyashiv, it says he put me back on my throne. It doesn't say who did it, but it means Paro did it back. You don't have to mention it again. Says Kasher Patar B'Gematria Shachalomot Ochim Achrei Peh. This is the numerical value. Kasher Patar. If you take the numerical value of these two words, it comes out to these four words, that dreams go after the explanation. It says in the Gemara, also in Brachot, that if you have a dream, go to a friend and ask him to interpret it. Even if it's a dream you get crushed by an elephant or who knows what. So he'll say it's good. It means that you're going to have so much good news. It's going to be crushing. And the elephant means that your investments are going to go up or something. I'll make up something to be good because dreams go after the explanation. And so was Yosef. So he's saying Yosef was actually the one that saved me. Paro said, oh yeah, he knows how to interpret dreams, does he? He's really accurate. So Paro called Yosef, took him from the boar, and they shaved him, shaved his hair, his head, and he changed his garments, and he came to Paro. They took him out of the boar. The boar, in this case, means not to the pit. That was the jail, because the jails used to be under the ground. They used to dig a hole and put a person in it, put a cage, or put a door over the top of the hole. It's like a hole. That's where they put Yosef. They took him out. It says, what does it mean? Vayigalech am migalech. Who shaved him? Someone shaved him. There was a barber there that shaved him. They took him out of the pit. It says anyone who was saved by God, says in one instant it's done. Like it says, Kruvi Yeshua Tilabo. Suddenly, one instant, they took him out of prison and they dressed him up nice, and he was standing in front of Paro. This is the whole thing of Egypt, like it says, Gorshumi Mitzrayim Ka'amram. This is that how the Jews got out of Egypt also. In one moment, Lo Yispik Batzeko, it says they were so fast that the dough couldn't even rise up the Jews. Suddenly, as soon as the time comes for God to save someone, as he saves them quickly, so it will be in the future. Like it says, Upitam Yavo El Heichal Adon. It says that God will take all the Jews out of the present exile and wake all the Jews up. It says you shouldn't go to the gate of the king dressed up not nice. So they washed them all up, they shaved him, they made him look nice, and he was standing in front of the king. And so it'll be in the future redemption as well, that God will suddenly take us all out and we'll be on the top of the world. Have a good day, everybody, with Mashiach. Now, tomorrow, 8:15. See you all tomorrow morning.